I've always wondered how some guys can handle stress so well. It can crush one guy and another guy is hardly affected by it. You could take two guys, they pretty much have the same job, same deadline, same pressure and all that. One man is absolutely crushed by stress. He carries it into his marriage, his health suffers, he brings it home and stresses his family out. The other guy, he comes out sharper and calmer, stronger. He doesn't bring that home at all. His family feels perfectly safe around him. What's the difference? It's not the stress, it's the mental game. So today, we're going to look at the mental side of stress. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Muglia, and I help men who feel stuck in their personal and professional relationships break free from unhealthy patterns and step into confident leadership so they can build thriving marriages, create deeper connections with their children, master work-life balance, and take control of their future. Let me give you some science that supports this idea that what we think about our stress matters. Researchers tracked 30,000 adults. That's a really big number, 30,000. They tracked them for 8 years. They found that people who had high stress levels and they had a belief that the stress was harming their health, they had a 43% higher chance of dying. But people who had high stress levels and did not have that belief, they didn't think it was harming them, they had the lowest risk of dying in the entire study. Stress was not the difference. It was the story that they told themselves about stress. As men, stress is one of the hardest things that we deal with every day. Every guy knows what it feels like to be pushed down under the weight of stress. And it's so easy to find ourselves, snapping at the people that we love or just, trying to cope. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like I said, you could have two different guys, same stress levels, deadlines, bills, marriage tension, kids acting out. It's all about the story. One man says to himself, I'm failing. This is too much. Life is against me. He walks into his house, short-tempered, distant, and reactive. His stress sets the atmosphere in his home. The other man just has a very different story. This pressure is fuel. It's sharpening me. It's teaching me patience and strength. He walks into his house calm, steady, and present. And that steadiness sets a completely different atmosphere. Same circumstances, two very different homes. I think at this point in human history, everybody knows the protocol to relieve stress. Diet, exercise, rest. You can do like yoga. Of course, prayer, meditation, breath work. There's a ton of stuff. And these are all really good things. But the reality is, if we lose the battle in our minds, no amount of breath work or, taking a walk in the forest is going to change anything for us, because stress doesn't just live in our bodies, it multiplies in our thoughts. And until we take charge of the meaning that we attach to stress, we will always feel like we're losing ground. No amount of maintenance will make up for a defeated mind. That's why stress isn't just about management. It's about self-leadership. And that starts with leading and managing our own minds. When I'm working with a guy one-on-one, we spend time on this. It takes more than a 5-minute video to explain it, but I'm going to give you the big idea. You can rehearse good stories in your mind just as easily as you rehearse the destructive ones. Now, you have to be intentional about this. You have to rehearse the better story. But it really does make a difference. Athletes do this. They imagine themselves catching the ball, making the touchdown. They don't imagine themselves dropping the ball, right? We can't always change the pressure that's on us, but we can always change the meaning that we attach to it. And that really determines how our wives and our kids experience us. We have to stop rehearsing these stories that stress is beating us, and then, using that story as an excuse to go home and shut down or check out or blow up. Men who lead don't hand their authority over to stress. They take it back. They tell themselves better stories. Stress is not proof of failure. It's fuel for growth. It's the training ground where we sharpen our edge as men. Now, let me clarify something. Our families don't need us to be fake. They don't need us to bottle everything up and pretend that life is perfect, only to quietly die under the weight of stress, right? They need us to be men who are real, who show up and teach them how to face stress head on. Of course, we need to win the mental game, but we also might need to do a lot more work on this. This may mean that you need to get some therapy, hire a coach, and just go a lot deeper. But it's important to work on it because this is the kind of leadership that changes the atmosphere in our homes. We have to decide we're ready to work on this, and that begins with winning the battle in our minds. If you want to learn how to stop bringing stress home to your family, go watch my video called Choosing Your Energy. In that video, I break down how men can shift from reacting to pressure to leading with presence, right? Just that one shift can completely change the atmosphere of our homes. If you got value from this today, please give it a like so more guys can see it. Subscribe, and I'll send you more videos like this. Finally, leave me a comment. I'd like to hear how you manage stress. Thanks for watching this. I'll see you next time.